So you're going to have to either go through your coordinator, or if you know where that student was previously, you could ask the teacher to drop them from their list, and then you'll be able to pick them up and put them into your students. Seating a student, this is just making sure that they are checked for the appropriate subscription that you have. Now, I know that it was really nice over the summer. We had News to You, we had the L3 and the Positivity were added for free, but all of those subscriptions are no longer available as of June 30th. So now we only have Unique. I know we're in the process to get a quote, and hopefully we can get those back, because I know a lot of people used them and they were very resourceful and good for our students. So hopefully we can get those back. But going back to just seating your students, you're going to go into My Students. You're going to click this student application, this orange button right here. And then down below, down here, you're going to just click the button. You're going to find the student's name and you're just going to check them. And that's what seats a student into the application. So in this case, into Unique. Does anybody have any questions, Bryce? Because I can't see the chat box.
I have not seen any.
Okay. Okay, I realize that a lot of this stuff is review, but I just want to make sure everybody gets to the right start for the beginning of the year.
Mo asked, does ULS link with Clicker Writer monthly stories?
I
know.
No.
Okay, so that's something we could probably look into.
Yeah, we could look into that.
Okay.
I also have had questions about how to change a student's differentiated level. So if a student is at a level 2 or a level 1 and you think that they should be a level 2, that's completely indicated by their profile. So once you create a profile for your student, which should be done at the beginning of the year, that determines what level that student is going to be at. And all of their work is going to be associated with that level.
Hey, Amy.
Yes.
I missed the norms. Would you rather have questions in the chat box or just turn on our mic?
It's fine. That's fine. If you want to ask questions. Yeah.
So I was wondering if what I found last year was, even though I went in and differentiated the student levels, I forget what they are now, if they're AA or just 1, 2, 3. Is there a way when you assign them work that the story goes directly to their level? Because what I found, which was ironic, is that the lowest student has to thumb through all the highest level stories first to get to their story. I wish it was the other way around and the higher, cognitive students could thumb and get to their story. So is there a fix for that?
What I understand is when you're configuring your student view, then that is where you can determine the reading level.
Yeah, and it didn't, I don't know, am I alone here, you guys? I had no success no matter what I did. It always went to the highest story.
When I would go on there and I would assign the homework, I would click the all levels. I think it's like the third option on there, and it would differentiate it between or by the student's level. So if they were higher or lower reading level, they would get that one. But I would have clicked, I think it was the third one, if I'm not mistaken. And it says all levels.
Yeah, but I think they still had to thumb through to get to the correct level.
I always would go in and double check, and they were differentiated between my highest reading level student and my lower ones.
This is in configure student view?
That was when I was assigning the homework. So after you configure their views and you put their level for reading, for the reading of the text, actually, it will, then once you go back and you assign the homework, when you're assigning it, you click, there's a specific option and it gives you, it will differentiate it between their reading levels.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, student profiles. That's why this is so important to do the profile at the beginning of the year, so you have the correct differentiated level. So here, you're always going to under profiles in their dashboard, you're going to want to create new profile. And that's just going to update. It still archives the old profile that you did last year, and it will replace the new one at the top. And this is just, this is what's you're gonna want to share with parents, because once you do the profile, it gives suggestions as to the level that they're at and what supports they should have. And you can share this with parents. With the student profiles, I know a lot of you guys already know, but there's two different parts. So that the part A is going to be what their participation is. So their vision, their hearing, their motor, their communication really tells you, what supports that they need based on their performance level with that. The K through 12 student learning, those are getting into more the academic levels. With the student profiles, there's also the self-help portion that's going to tell you what level they need support in the eating, feeding, toileting, dressing, and grooming skills. The benchmarks that I mentioned, these are really important. This is what's going to show you whether they're emerging or mastered or in the skill areas, the academic skill areas. Unique mentions that they should be done 2 to 4 times a year. I would like to do it in the beginning of the year just to get an idea of where they're at, but I most importantly suggest doing it before an IEP, so you can help determine what goal areas would be appropriate. And these are the areas of the benchmark assessments. The checkpoints are the pre and post tests that we have to do. So the pre-test you want to give at the beginning, just to provide what the student's background is and what, their previous learning that they have already. The pre and the post test are the exact same thing. The post test is going to show what they've learned and any progress that they've gained over that monthly lesson. And again, this is just review, I understand, but you're going to have to explain these to parents and what assessment is what. So that's why we're going over these. The administrating assessments and remote learning is just going to look a lot different. You're going to want to share the information with the parents of why we need to do these assessments, show them the results that we're getting, and demonstrate just the collection of the data that we're trying to get and how it's driving instruction. Is going to be really important just to show them the importance of this, because these assessments are now going to be up to them to do, unfortunately. So
Amy, would you suggest that the teachers do a video demonstrating how to give them the pre and post tests?
yeah, I think the videos are very helpful. A PowerPoint, a video, just getting on the phone right before and explain exactly. Also providing a PDF or some kind of a list of possible supports that they can give during the assessment, I think would all be very valuable.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, I'm sorry if I missed something, you guys, but the pre and post test are for the comprehension, right? So can't I share my screen with my student and go over it with them, or do the parents have to do it?
Well, it just depends. Hopefully if your students can do it independently, then great.
Okay.
And you can do it on a one-on-one, and they're able to use a computer, and the computer is collecting that data of their responses, then perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Students, yeah. So we need to have, with a lot of our students, we need to have more parent involvement. So assessments with technology. So these are students that are able to use a touch screen and orient to the computer, or have, that have access to computers. The teacher to-do list, and again, this is coming from Unique, and this is what they're suggesting. So just to establish a timeline of when these assessments are going to be done, provide the PDF or appropriate supports for the parents to use as a like a cheat sheet or some kind of visual for them. Then schedule a meeting to review how you're going to administrate these assessments. So with the parent, they're going to need to know what the materials are, what those response modes are that we looked at the beginning, how the student's going to respond. Also, just go over what it used to look like in the classroom, what expectations, what you saw the student was able to do, so you can mimic what can be done in the home. But the level of support, tell them what time frame, your students, how many can they answer before they need a break? And then also how you're going to document the expectations and the students' responses. Then you set up a virtual meeting for the assessment, so you can be there with them to walk them through it, or you can have them give it to, have them administrate it when it's a good time for them. And then you're going to want to review the completed assessment and enter the data offline attempts. Like I said, if the student's able to do it on the computer and they're able to click it, then the computer's going to do the responses. But if not, then you're going to have to enter in those responses offline. So that's the teacher to-do list. Then the parent to-do list is to make sure they attend that meeting that you set up, that they're able to log on to their sign-on for ULS. They're going to need to document the answers based on the criteria that you gave them. You're going to provide documentation of what those were, and then also it just says celebrate the completion with the student. So hopefully, there's some kind of reward that the student gets for completing these assessments, to make it a little more engaging and fun. So the assessments without technology, it's pretty much the exact same thing as with technology. It's obviously just not having to log on to Unique. But you're going to do the same thing, set up a timeline, provide information to parents. You're going to want to do the whole meeting, tell them their role, what your expectations are. And then also just set up, if they need help going through the assessment, you can set up a meeting to do that, and then review the assessments, the answers that the student gave, and then also again enter the responses, the offline attempts. Same thing with the parent without technology. Same thing, the only difference is they don't log on to ULS. They're just going to be provided with what you gave them to administer the assessments. Any questions about that? So it's pretty much teaching the parents how to give the assessment.
Amy, one of the things that I would make sure, we obviously are going to have some parents who are going to struggle with completing these requirements. And so one of the things that I would say is make sure you're always documenting attempts in your accountability log of making sure that we've done those things to try to assess the students. And so making sure that we have evidence of attempting thgoing so that we have demonstrated our good faith effort to try to assess as much as we can. We're going to be communicating out expectations, the kind of role of parents this afternoon, and we'll be sending that out to parents. Regardless, I think parents some of them are going to struggle regardless, but at least then they will know what kind of their role in participating. So,
right. And with this assessments, it also shows the accountability. So you're expecting parents to do these assessments. It's going to make them hopefully want to engage with those lessons more so their student can perform better on the assessments. The hope. But I know that a lot of the pre and post tests were not done from March to the end of school. So because we just didn't know exactly how to do that, and with everyone being so overwhelmed, it wasn't the focus. But now we're gonna need that data. So just work with the parent as much as you can to see how to make this process as easy as possible for them. And if you have to set a meeting and walk them through each thing, then you know what, it just is going to depend student to student what the needs are going to be. ULS and the paraprofessionals. I mean, it's great hearing that we're able to utilize our classroom assistants in more roles that'll take some of the duties off of teachers. So when it comes to ULS, have them help you make lessons, have them create videos. And I love the ideas of running stations during your class meetings, but using unique materials. There's going to be students that still need packets sent home, so they can be printing out those and putting those together to be sent home as well. So there's a lot of things in Unique that you can have them do. Unique has an amazing resource of videos in their professional development area. And so if your assistants need help with whatever, they can go to those and watch those as well. There's always new things coming out. So maybe that they can, give them the duty of learning of what's new on Unique. So you can learn what's happening and how you can better make this more accessible for your students. It just depends. If they have your logon and your password, then they can go in and see the student data and help you compile it. If you do not want to give them your logon, then there's a way that they can go in to Unique and sign up for a trial. This will give them access to the professional development videos and the content, but they will not be able to see any of the student data. So it really just depends on what your comfort level is with your assistants. If you want them to have access to help compile the progress of your students. Assigning homework. I know this was a lot of many questions as well. So in Unique, you can either do My Plan and you can set up your whole schedule of when you're going to do certain lessons. That, for whatever reasons, seemed to be a little convoluted and really hard for people to do, getting the schedule and the lessons to be at the right time. So a lot of people just assigned the lessons as homework, and this was found to be a lot easier. So I have the steps here of what you need to do. I also created a resource guide, so it has videos on how to do these things as well. But assigning homework, you just want to make sure that you set homework. You have to set a time for homework, and you want to make sure that that time is pretty much all day, so they have access to the lessons for when it works with their daily routine. And you can make it student specific. You can, and also homework, it will also keep data of what they've done. So if the attempts that they've made, I believe, Tasha, you might want to pipe in, I think about, it does keep track of some of the data that the students are doing.
Yes, it'll keep track of the attempts, and if you could tell, like, if students just click, and it'll tell you like how many pages were on there. I was just toying around with mine, and I went into a student's to check it out and stuff, and it was through assigned homework. So it'll now, before it didn't show you attempts, but it was attempts, and it'll show you, like, say if they were to answer the questions, it'll show that they got 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5 of the answers correct. But another important thing is that they need to make sure they click the home button to exit out. So if they just exit out of the browser, it will not collect your data. And that, I think that's something Unique was working on of adjusting.
Okay. Can I ask something? So it sounds like, Amy, you're talking about when we're assigning work this time to to assign it as homework, correct?
A lot of teachers found that was easier than creating my plan.
Okay, so if we want to, we can just keep clicking out of that amazing My Plan and just get straight to homework and assign the students through the homework.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you have the option of either.
And the homework is also going to want very specific, because I feel like that was a problem last time. I tried to assign homework, but there was some conflict of times and it wouldn't work out. But if I just make my homework from 12 midnight to 12, 24 hours or whatever, then it's just available all day.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they can choose when they want to do it, because I also believe that if you assign it a certain time, it's gone the next day. You have to keep reassigning the homework daily.
Is anyone going to talk about the My Plan? Is that a better way to go this year? Did they fix any of that?
I don't know. Does anyone have anything to share if they use My Plan?
I was looking into that, but I couldn't see it. I couldn't find a definite answer. My understanding is they were trying to make it to where it was still available all day, but that was your suggested time for them to complete it.
So can I ask you guys a question? The teachers who were using this every day or supposed to be using it every day, did you guys just assign homework and this just worked out and the kids just got on? Am I alone?
It worked out for me, but I also had my students, they were, my set of previous students, they were used to doing it in the classroom as well. So yeah, it was so successful for myself.
Okay.
So we have some other questions. I don't know if you want to take those when you're ready for some other questions.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of the questions was, there's not curriculum for August. So since there's not curriculum for August, we want to be able to assess them in August. So assessments start in September, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. August is still considered summer curriculum, and the first unit will be available in September.
Okay. So then we would use the summer curriculum, and then, since we're not doing assessments, then we would want to definitely use August to set up profiles.
Yes.
Okay. And if I'm correct, I know one of the things you and I struggled with last year was you cannot set up a student login without a profile being set up, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Tori Ruff said, just to clarify, parents are to administer the pre and post test to students. I would think that they have to at least support, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And it depends on the student's level. So if the student can engage and do a touch screen and they're able to, this parent will still have to direct them.
Okay. And then Casey said, are the assessments you're referring to for ongoing progress tracking, or do you mean assessments for the triennial?
It's for progress tracking. So it's the benchmarks, which you can use for annuals. It's the check and the monthly checkpoints. Those are the assessments that I'm referring to.
Okay. And then Andy,
checkpoints go with the monthly unit.
Okay. And then Andy discussed, just the accuracy of data being collected by students or by parents. The parents can sometimes have a biased view of their students. Sometimes it can be either do more or less than they can do. I think we all can agree with that. Andy, I think my suggestion would be on that. I don't know what Amy's thoughts are. My suggestion would be simply to just put, if it's going to an IEP document, to just put assessment completed by parent via distance learning reported. That way you at least have that caveat that data was reported by the parent. That's really all we can do at this point. I think data is, I hate to say it, sometimes data is going to be very skewed right now in a lot of ways. Amy, what is your thoughts?
Yeah, and that's why I believe just going through the prompting levels with them, because that is what I heard from many teachers, is they were working on their goals, and there was stuff that students were able to do independently, and they, through the video, they could see parents grabbing their hand and physically prompting them. So it's just really important just to have those discussions with parents to try to use the least restrictive prompting, just to see what the correct, to get an actual assessment of what the student can do.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we'll have lots of time for questions and answers. I'm kind of flying through these. Also, this part, the student daily performance. This is on the My Students page at the bottom. There's a button for the data and observations. So this is an area where you can get that collected data. You can view the performance on lessons that they've been able to do in the student view. You can add observational data in there. So when you're working with a student one-on-one, you can add, anything that you saw or any extra information that'll help you know exactly what that student was doing. You can, I think that's pretty much it. You can also look at this information through the student summary report, which is on the dashboard as well in the right-hand corner. So that'll show you what students have, that's the benchmarks and the all of that data is captured there. Here is how to record the offline attempts. So any feedback that you get from parents as to what they did and their documentation, they weren't able to actually do it on the computer. So you're going to be able to sign on here and go down to where the observations and the data is, and this is in My Students, and be able to enter in that data that they gave you as feedback. So I know that some were having to, I know in class when I had students that weren't able to use a touch screen, I would just turn off the touch screen feature, and then I would click what they were pointing to or whatever their mode was of answering questions. So, but I'd have to go through the whole entire assessment, and then that's what I think I was hearing from people were having to do to log their answers. But this is a way just to do the offline attempts that you don't have to run through the entire assessment, if that makes sense. Another new component that that Unique has started is they have science and social studies courses now. And this is for higher grades. This is from intermediate to high school. And these lessons have been aligned to fit within the extended standards. So, and that's why elementary, I guess elementary does not have extended standards for science and social studies. So that's why it's the intermediate, middle school, and high school bands have these activities. But I know that this was a huge component that was missing, and Unique every other month rotates from a science lesson to a social studies lesson. But it's really nice to actually have science and social studies lessons that we can use, because a lot of this stuff, especially when we're going to be doing CAST testing, if we can do that this year, we can get them more involved in these areas that they're going to be tested on for the state tests. So, so I'm really happy to see. I haven't looked into what these exactly are for lessons, but I'm super excited that they have this component now in Unique, because it really was an area that was missing. So I created a resources guide just for, and I'm just going to click on this one. It's the back to school checklist. And I thought this was super handy to use as a reference. And you can find this on their website. So it has a ton of resources with links to find exactly what you need. So to update how to, exactly how to add or drop or seat a student. There were all kinds of setting up profiles. Also, the student login. So if you can't, it'll give you the step-by-step instructions on how to set up your student logons, or it'll also direct you to a video that you can watch them do it. So like I said, that Unique has a huge library of videos that you can watch. And that is something that I would just do for the first thing of August, since there's not a lot of curriculum, is just get reacquainted with the foundations portion under the professional development, because that runs you through pretty much everything in all the criteria areas of Unique. They're very valuable. I try to watch them over and over again. And then also, if you want to learn more about that student daily performance area, they're in here. But I thought it was a pretty good little back to school checklist of things if you just needed a quick go-to for something specific. Here's the My Plan information, setting up your schedule. And then also the basics. And hopefully, I know a lot of people were using News to You, and hopefully we can get that going again. There's some more information about the science and social studies courses. Also, if you need more about the core materials or the transition passport and how to incorporate those in your day, those core materials would be great for any of those students that have hand washing goals, or keeping a schedule, or maybe making a calendar. All of those data ADL or any of those other goals, they have task analysis that are already created that you could give to parents that would that could address those areas, so you didn't have to recreate them. So just to check those out and see if, and also washing tables, putting dishes in the dishwasher, all kinds of things that they already have real life pictures for that you could use. Yeah, there's also this one, I clicked on this one, it doesn't look to be updated, but I thought this would be a really good tool to use. It's an assessment schedule. So it looks like they need to redo the dates, but if you wanted to print this and wipe out the dates, it'll tell you, basically when the curriculum is available, and usually check at least, 2 weeks before or a week before the month starts, when it's ready. But you could write in when you did the pre-test and the post-test. You could keep this for each student, or you could do it class-wide if you do them all at one time. But this just gives you a schedule as to what you're doing for the year. And I thought that this would be very, very beneficial for just keeping track of what assessments you need to do. So that is in here as well. Oh, of course. The benchmark. Oh, this is just talking about the benchmarks, and then it answers specific questions about the benchmarks, but I was thinking it had a schedule as well, but I don't see that. So does anybody have any questions about this back to school checklist? Yeah, so it does have information as well for the L3 and the positivity, because I know those are fairly new. I'm not sure how many people were using those, but I know the L3 had some really engaging games that were at seem to be very appropriate for our students. And then the positivity is all about behavior strategies that you can use and combine it with unique.
Can I ask, did anybody use those at all? Okay.
I,
Wait, hello?
Hi.
This is Craig. Hello, everyone. I was having trouble unmuting myself. So L3
Yeah.
was the games I was able to assign daily. It established my students' favorites so that I was able to see what they were playing. We used it as an incentive through positivity, because positivity, you can attach timers, incentive stories, everything is set up for you insofar as social stories for positive behavior reinforcement. They were useful also for the parents. Please buy them for us.
Okay.
So they were invaluable because, like Amy was talking about the social science and science, I turned all of those into PowerPoints because they come with comprehension units as well. So there's additional, comprehension assessment available through positivity. The L3 games, are learning based in the curriculum as well. So it's a reinforcement of the topics we're teaching. They all line up really well together. So yes, I use them quite a bit.
Awesome. Tammy, it says like you use them as well. Can I ask what your experience was?
I tried using them with my preschoolers, just the games. And I probably only had 2 that actually could follow the directions for the games, because most of my kids don't know how to use a mouse. They don't really
Sure.
know how to use a computer, but they said that when they could figure it out, it was fun for them. The higher functioning kiddos, not the lower functioning.
Okay. Well, good.
There's a
Thank you for.
webinar, Bryce, there's a webinar tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern time on positivity through Unique. If anybody, I can send them the link or whatever. You have to register for it. But I find those webinars very informational. I watched several of them when we were doing distant learning in the spring on how to access and how to use L3 and different areas of the curriculum. So I think they're invaluable if anybody's interested in watching those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we're not opposed to obviously looking at different aspects of Unique. We just want to make sure that, they're valuable to our staff before we, invest in those. So Craig, it sounds like you'd be a great trainer to explain to us how those work. So sounds good.
Yeah. So those webinars too that Cherie was talking about are often, if you missed them, they're recorded and you can watch them through the professional development portion of Unique as well. So yeah, that was that. But I did put some resources in here that are directly to those videos or just printouts that'll walk you through step by step for the logins, the My Plans, the daily performance. That seem to be the center of questions that I usually received about. So I know assigning homework was a big one. And then parent resources, also about how to engage parents using Unique. On here too is a link to there's a form that you can give parents that has a how to log on to Unique that I believe was very useful to parents. There's also a Spanish version of the letter as well, but that might be something that you want to send home at the beginning of the year. So they have their password and their username, and then also a list of how to log on for their student. I was interested to find out that that letter is the only Spanish letter that they have on their website. They do not have any other EL components whatsoever on their website. So hopefully that's something they're going to be working on in the future. Talking about webinars, there is a webinar that's coming up that I thought would be very appropriate for right now. If you want to register for it, it is August 18th at 5 o'clock. This is Eastern time. They usually last an hour, but they're very informative. And this is all about data and how to use data with Unique to create great outcomes. So that, I thought that would be something just to highlight and put on your calendar. And it's super easy. You just click the button to register. They send you a link, and they're very, very informative. So I know that we answered questions and questions before, but now is anything anybody wants to share about successes or anything they had issues with that over remote learning and using Unique? Come on, Tasha, I know you have lots to share.
Hi, Amy, it's Tori.
Okay, hi, Tori.
Hey, I had a question about the News to You library. Is there a way to share those articles with kids? Because it didn't seem like there was a PDF version of them. They were all iDocs. And I wanted the kids to be able to have something extra to read.
I don't know the answer to that. I thought everything you were able to make it into a PDF. I know that's the case for Unique. You can make the PDF, but I don't know about News to You, but it seems like you should be able.
I used to save those ones down, and then I would convert it over to Adobe PDF, and I'd upload it onto my Google one for a student who'd like to read them.
The problem with that is that I think the differentiation is that you can get the PDFs of the current issues, but the breaking news is only available as a web-based document. So there's a lot of resources in the breaking news section, Tori, that you might be talking about, that has the maps and all that cool stuff, but it's only web-based. So if you go to current issues and scroll down, you can select just the PDFs. So what I would do is download those along with the comprehension sheets, and then I'd put them into a PowerPoint. So then the kids at home, they can follow me online, and then at home they can do the comprehension sheets themselves, so they're interactive.
That's perfect. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, but then just so you know, then you got to follow up with the parents and, you know, how many of the questions did they get right and all of that kind of stuff. But it's doable.
Okay, thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or anything that I can look into and find an answer for?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So my preschoolers, like I said earlier, don't really log onto the computer. Is it still okay for me to be sending hard copies home? Because, you know, attention span of a 3-year-old and, you know, using screen time and things like that is kind of not really recommended anyway. So is it okay for me to just use the hard copies?
Yeah, it's however you know what's best for your student, and just make sure during those weekly check-ins with your parents, just find out what works best. And that if you're going to send home packets, then you know that's probably how you're going to have to do the pre and post tests as well. So you're going to have to send those home at whenever you feel appropriate to do that.
Okay, yeah, and that's kind of what I was doing in the past. So I did it with hard copies for the ones that couldn't figure out how to touch the screen properly and things like that.
Yeah. And then also, you know, just to keep up with your goals, the goals that are tied to that, make sure that the parents have a way when they're doing the paper, like activities, that they have some way to document what their responses are so they can report on progress, since it won't be captured through online.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering about, how I would document that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that there's a good, I think it's important when you're doing the distance learning plans with each student, you're talking about those with the families to talk about what the modality is going to be best for some students. Some students have issues with behavior, with screens. It's totally fine to send packets home. And manipulatives, all those kind of things, those are important. It's probably, I would say from my perspective, when you talk about the 60% participation rate that students are going to have to meet, if we put all of our baskets and all of our stuff into one basket where, you know, it's all online or it's all offline, we're going to have a problem. So we kind of we have to have a mix between the two.
Right. Okay, thank you.
They also made it accessible on iPads. I had one student who wouldn't do paper or on the computer, and mom would kind of chase him around and let him do one question on the iPad and then remove it away for about 10 minutes or whatever she did. So that's also another option for you if you need one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
that does seem to make it a lot more engaging for a lot of our ASD guys, for sure. Okay, anything else? There was, I don't know how many people are using Google Classroom, but I saw that there's videos of ways to upload lessons straight into your Google Classroom. And I don't know if people figured that out last time, but it seemed like it was a new, either they made it easier to do or more compatible or something about that, but that is an option if you use Google Classroom.
Okay. Tasha just mentioned that there is a webinar on August 11th about creating routines using News to You. So probably one of the things, if you're not on the News to You webinars, is probably a good idea to get on those. And Mo just brought up a good point to remember to look at access for a student. I know she talked about open access website this morning. Access for students is going to be a really key, important part. And that's something I think that the new individual distance learning plan really calls out, as what is the access for that student to be able to access curriculum. So thanks for that reminder.
Great.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Amy, are you ready for the survey then?
Yes.
Okay.
And if anybody has questions, you can always reach out. If I don't have the answer, I will find you the answer. So just reach out to me and let me know, and we can do an individual unique session.
All right, the survey is in your chat box. Please make sure you take that before you leave. And I believe our next session starts at 1:45.
Okay.
Is any